Okay, so here's an example that involves differentiation of rational terms, that's the ones with fractions, and radical terms, ones with square roots, or any kind of root in fact. So our first job on this is to rewrite this, and we can't just jump into differentiating it right away. So we're going to rewrite it with powers. Okay, rewrite it with powers. And that's going to make it f of x is equal to now 3 over x squared. We're going to bring the x up and make its power negative, change the sign of the power. So that's going to become 3x to the negative 2. Minus 2 over 5x. Now, fractions like this you have to be careful about. We're going to leave the negative 2 over 5 as it is. So we're going to leave negative 2 over 5 as a fraction, but the x we're going to pull up, and it becomes x to the power of negative 1. Okay, so be very careful about that where you have fractions with a constant on the bottom as well as the x. So it becomes negative 2/5. Continue to leave that as a fraction, but pull the x up. Then plus 3 times the square root of x. Well, that's 3. The square root of x is x to the power of 1/2. And then this one is going to be plus 4. And it was the cube root of x squared, but that was under the line. So if we bring it up, it's going to be negative. So any x that has been under the line, its power is going to have to become negative. And the cube root of x squared would be 2/3. So in this case, it's negative 2/3. The root part goes on the bottom. So it was a cube root, so put the 3 on the bottom. Okay? And that's how we rewrite it. Okay. Now we're going to differentiate it. Okay. Now we're going to differentiate it. If you differentiate an f of x, you get f prime of x. Okay, so if you differentiate f of x, you get f prime of x. And what we do, we've written everything in terms of powers, so we're going to just use the power rule, which means multiply down by the power and reduce the power by 1. So multiply down by the power. 3 by negative 2 is negative 6. Reduce the power by 1, and be very careful here. Reducing negative 2 by 1 is negative 2 minus 1, which is minus 3. Okay, so be careful that you don't go negative 2 reduced by 1 is negative 1. It's not. Reduce by means subtract 1. So minus 2 minus 1 is negative 3. Here we have negative 2/5 x to the negative 1. Multiply down by the power. Negative 1 by negative 2/5 is plus 2/5. But reduce the power by 1. X to the negative 1 reduced by 1 is x to the negative 2. Next term, plus 3x to the power of 1/2. Multiply down by the 1/2. 3 times 1/2 is 3 over 2. Reduce the power by 1. It's 1/2 minus 1. Whatever the power is, take 1 away from it. So 1/2 minus 1 is to the power of negative 1/2. And then finally here, this last term, plus 4x to the negative 2/3. Multiply down by the power. 4 times negative 2/3 plus by minus is minus. 4 2s are 8 over 3. 8 over 3, and reduce the power by 1. So it's negative 2/3 minus 1. Or negative 3 over 3, minus 2 over 3, minus 3 over 3 would be minus 5 over 3. Okay, so then you have the option, and sometimes it's not optional, but in this case you aren't directed to write it in one particular way. But what I like to do is, if I was given the original in a particular form, write the answer back in the same form. So the first two terms should be written as rational functions, and the second two terms should include roots. Okay, so we're going to change them back here. Don't always have to do this, but certainly it's good to be able to do it at least. So we have f prime of x. And negative 6 over x to the minus 3, sorry, negative 6x to the minus 3 is negative 6. Put the x underneath again, and it becomes negative 6 over x cubed. Then you have plus 2/5, that's a fraction. The x had a negative power, so the x has to go back down underneath, and it becomes 2 over 5x squared. This is going to be plus 3, and on the bottom we have 2. The x had a negative power, so it's going to go underneath, and it was the power of 1/2, which is the square root. So plus 3 over 2 root x, and then minus 8 over 3. This x is going to go down as well, and the question you have to ask yourself is it a fifth root or is it a cube root? And the root comes from the number, the denominator of the fraction. So it's going to be the cube root. It's going to be the cube root of x to the power of 5. Okay, there you go. That's the answer.